Have you ever felt trapped within the confines of your own mind, with thoughts that spiral, painting a bleak picture of the world? Imagine for a moment that we're gathered around, embarking on a journey into the very essence of our thoughts and their overwhelming power. Ready? Let's dive deep. All right, folks, let's kick this off with an undeniable truth. Our thoughts, they're a force to be reckoned with. Think of them like the background score to the movie of your life, influencing the mood, setting the pace, and sometimes taking over the plot. Now, have you ever stopped to ponder just how monumental this power is? Our thoughts shape our reality, pushing us to take actions and heavily swaying our emotional well-being. Imagine if we harnessed this energy. We'd be unstoppable, right? But here's the kicker. Sometimes they control us instead. Ever found yourself spiraling down a rabbit hole of negativity, feeling trapped and unable to escape? We've all been there. Thoughts can be a comforting blanket, but they can just as quickly turn into heavy chains. Now, what if I told you that regaining control over this ever-chattering mind of ours isn't just a luxury, it's essential? We're talking about transforming our relationship with our thoughts. Instead of being swept away by them, we learn to dance with them, leading the way. Tempting, isn't it? Peek into this comprehensive guide and you'll discover a treasure trove of strategies to regain this control. But wait, before we move on, let's reflect for a moment. How often do we truly try to understand the origin and nature of our thoughts? Are they always a direct result of our experiences, or do external factors like society and culture sneak their way in? Food for thought, isn't it? Now let's pull back the curtain on cognitive processes. Picture this, a puppet show with strings being pulled by an enormous looming brain. Our thought patterns? They're those strings, influenced by memories, perceptions, and even biases. Ever remembered an event differently from someone else? That's your perception and memory playing a role. And biases? They're those sneaky shortcuts our minds take, often leading us astray. How's that for a revelation? But hold on to your seats, because here comes the grand connection: thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. It's a cycle. One influences the other, and round it goes. Picture this: negative thoughts giving rise to distressing emotions, pushing you to act in a certain way. Ever thought, "I'm not good enough," felt deflated, and then avoided taking a risk? That, my friends, is this cycle in action. But as we go on, we stumble upon cognitive distortions. Those little exaggerations our minds are so fond of. Expecting the worst, that's catastrophizing. Seeing no middle ground? Hello, black and white thinking. Recognizing these is like finding a map in a maze. It's the first step to navigating through. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." How's that for wisdom? So, as we embark on this enlightening journey, are you ready to turn the spotlight onto your thoughts, examining them without judgment, and maybe, just maybe, discovering how to make them your allies? And now let's touch on mindfulness, which is just a fancy word for a simple concept. Ever caught yourself staring into space while sipping your morning coffee, completely immersed in its aroma and taste? That's it. Mindfulness is about being present, about savoring every bit of now without passing judgment. It's like watching a movie of your own thoughts and feelings from a comfortable seat, without getting too invested in the plot twists. But how do we achieve this Zen-like state? Oh, there are ways. Mindful breathing. Think about this for a moment. Your breath is like that old friend who's always there, but whom you've kind of taken for granted. It's time to reconnect. Every time your thoughts drift off to that embarrassing moment from high school or that pending work deadline, gently steer them back to your breathing. Feel the cool air entering, the warm air leaving, simple yet transformative. Body scan. Now imagine if our bodies could talk. What would they say? With this exercise, you give your body a voice, allowing it to communicate any sensations, from the tingling in your toes to the tension in your temples. Mindful eating. Remember that chocolate cake you devoured last night? No judgment, we've all been there. But did you really taste it? Next time, take it slow. Relish every bite. Let the flavors dance on your tongue. When we practice mindfulness, a magical thing happens. We start to see our thoughts not as absolute truths, but just as fleeting visitors. It's like decluttering your mind space, making room for positivity and clarity. Speaking of clarity, Have you ever thought about restructuring the architecture of your mind? Sounds sci-fi, right? But bear with me. Cognitive restructuring. This is the art of challenging and transforming those pesky negative thought patterns. Picture your mind as a garden. Some thoughts are like weeds, growing wild and overshadowing the beautiful flowers. Our job? Identify those weeds and replace them with seeds of positivity. A simple way to start is by reframing. So you made a blunder at work. Instead of diving into a pit of self-loathing, ask yourself, haven't the best of us made mistakes? Isn't it all a part of the learning process? Shift that perspective. But what about those deeply ingrained beliefs? I'm not good enough. No one likes me. Sounds familiar? Challenge them. Look for evidence. Perhaps recall that friend who checks on you every week or that colleague who appreciated your idea in the last meeting. Why not arm ourselves with positive affirmations? Every time a negative thought tries to creep in, counteract it with a burst of positivity. Tell yourself, I am enough, I am valued, I am loved. As the great Dan Millman once said, you don't have to control your thoughts, you just have to stop letting them control you. So profound, right? But hold on. Have you ever thought about how our thoughts and emotions are like those two best friends who can't live without each other? Think about it. A little negative thought sneaks in and bam! Suddenly you're down a rabbit hole of sadness or anger. It's like they're in cahoots. Recognizing this duo is our first step towards emotional freedom. Imagine if we could become Sherlock Holmes for our emotions. Enter emotional intelligence and self-awareness, the dynamic duo that can help us decipher the enigmatic link between our thoughts and feelings. Who knew journaling, meditating, and practicing mindfulness would be our Watson in this mental mystery? And speaking of mysteries, you know those days when you feel like your emotions are an intense thriller movie? Heart racing, tension building, dramatic music playing? Enter emotion-focused coping techniques, deep breathing, relaxation exercises, or even just hugging yourself like you're your favorite teddy bear. Yes, sometimes we just need to be our own superheroes. But wait, there's more. Ever met someone who just seems to bounce back from anything like a rubber ball? That's resilience, my friends. Imagine facing life's challenges with the bounce of a basketball, coming back even higher every time you're pushed down. Sounds fun, doesn't it? Now let's take a scenic detour to a world of behavioral interventions. Picture this. You're on a mental treadmill, running and running with those negative thoughts. Want a hack? Just jump off and paint or dance or even just sit in a park. Changing our surroundings or activities can be like giving our minds a refreshing lemonade on a hot day. And speaking of refreshment, let's not forget about self-care. If our brain was a smartphone, self-care would be the charger. Everything from sleeping, eating right, to spending time with loved ones is like plugging into a power source. But now imagine if your phone's been glitching for too long and turning it off and on doesn't help. Sometimes it's time to call customer support. For our minds, this means seeking professional help. It's like having a tech guru for our brains, someone who can guide us, troubleshoot, and even introduce us to some cool new features we never knew existed. Now don't let me lose you here, but have you ever thought about your brain like a bustling workshop? We brought to light the cognitive restructuring techniques, where we are not just the artisans but the masterpiece, sculpting and modifying those distorted, perhaps a bit too dramatic thoughts into something more harmonious and uplifting. I bet some of us were surprised, weren't we, to discover how much control we can reclaim with the right emotional regulation strategies. It's like being a maestro in the grand orchestra of our emotions, bringing in the violins of joy to mellow the thunderous drums of distress. Absolutely, because what we dove into next was more than just techniques. It was a call to arms, encouraging us to bravely disrupt the negative patterns with positive interventions. It was about breaking free from the chains and saying, no, not today, to those thoughts that drag us down. And let's not forget the crescendo. Oh, it was magnificent, wasn't it? When we reached out for professional support, finding the right resources, and essentially inviting allies to join us in this heroic journey of conquering our own minds. Now, my fellow adventurers, comes the moment of triumphant return, laden with wisdom and treasures of personal growth and well-being. You've braved the storm, and now you stand here prepared to unlock a new level of mental freedom, ready to manage stress, overcome challenges, and to live a more fulfilling life. Can you imagine the strength that lies within the realization that we are shaped by our thoughts? We become what we think? So now, dear fellow explorers, it's your turn. Yes, your turn to take the reins of your mind and steer your ship towards a healthier, happier life. Picture yourself as the master of your ship, steering boldly and wisely towards horizons of happiness and peace, where every thought is a star guiding you to your true north. But oh wait, we have some burning questions bubbling up, don't we? How exactly do negative thoughts impact mental health? Oh, they're those silent saboteurs, aren't they? Crafting vicious cycles that can spiral into anxiety, stress, and dampening our self-esteem. And can mindfulness really help? I hear someone ask. Imagine if we could stand still in the eye of a storm, observing with calm and acceptance. Yes, my enlightened friends, that is the power mindfulness bestows upon us, a balancing act that takes us to a higher plane of existence, don't you think? We've also unearthed the secret toolbox of cognitive restructuring techniques, haven't we? It's like having a magic wand that helps you paint your thoughts with vibrant and positive hues, dispelling the dark clouds with evidence-based reasoning and heartwarming affirmations. Oh, and to those pondering the strategies for managing intense emotions, we've got you covered. It's like being a seasoned sailor, navigating the turbulent seas with skills like deep breathing and progressive muscle relaxation, reaching the shores of calmness and serenity with resilience, intelligence, and self-compassion. And as we near the end of this vibrant journey together, I must emphasize that there comes a time, a crucial moment, where seeking professional help is the bravest step we can take to bring in a sage guide in our expedition towards better mental health. Remember, dear companions in this voyage of self-discovery, as Marcus Aurelius echoed through the sands of time, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. As we bid farewell to this enriching journey, let us carry these powerful words in our hearts, nurturing the seeds of curiosity and courage, as we venture into a world bursting with possibilities, with minds unburdened and spirits unbroken. So, as we stand on the threshold of a brighter tomorrow, remember the journey to master your thoughts. It is not a sprint, but a glorious marathon with vistas of wondrous discoveries awaiting. And before we part ways and embark on our individual quests, let me leave you with this. Stay passionately curious, ever vibrant, and constantly enlightened. And always, always remember, sometimes it's just one tiny epiphany that can transform an ordinary life into an awe-inspiring journey. Here's to the fiery spirit in each one of us, constantly thirsting for growth and insight. Until our next enlightening chat, take care and be the seeker you're meant to be.